Jake and I, we were that couple. You know the one. High school sweethearts, married right after college, 2 beautiful kids, a house in the suburbs with a white picket fence. We had it all. At least, that's what I thought. Our life was a carefully constructed masterpiece, a perfect picture I spent 15 years painting. Jake was my rock, my best friend. The man I trusted with my entire world. And then, in a single moment, that world shattered into a million pieces. It all started so subtly. A late night at the office here, a sudden business trip there. When I'd ask, he'd just smile that charming smile of his, wrap his arms around me, and say, "Just closing a big deal, honey." For us. And I believed him. Why wouldn't I? This was Jake, my Jake. The distance between us grew slowly, almost imperceptibly. Our conversations became shorter, our shared laughter faded, and the warmth in his eyes when he looked at me seemed to cool. I told myself it was just stress from work, the pressures of life. I made excuses because the alternative was too terrifying to even consider. The truth, when it came, wasn't a dramatic confrontation. It was a quiet, mundane discovery. I was looking for a receipt in his briefcase for our taxes, and my hand brushed against a small velvet jewelry box. My heart fluttered for a second. An anniversary gift, maybe? My hand trembled as I opened it. Inside, nestled on the velvet, was a delicate gold necklace with a single unfamiliar initial, not an S for Stella. It was a C. A cold dread washed over me, a feeling so absolute it stole the air from my lungs. That night, when he came home, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just held up the box. The color drained from his face, and in the deafening silence of our perfect home, his entire world of lies collapsed. And mine right along with it. The confession was a blur of whispered words and hollow apologies. Her name was Chloe, a new colleague. "It just happened," he said, the words a pathetic cliché. Happened? Our life, our family, our 15 years. Did they just happen? The betrayal was a physical pain, a knife twisting in my gut. Every memory we ever made was suddenly tainted. Every "I love you" he'd ever said now felt like a lie. I looked at the man in front of me, this stranger wearing my husband's face, and I felt nothing but a vast, empty coldness. The love I had for him, the foundation of my entire adult life, had evaporated. The days that followed were a living nightmare. I was a ghost in my own home, going through the motions for the sake of our children. Smile, pack lunches, help with homework, read bedtime stories. Then, after they were asleep, I sit in the dark and just unravel. I replayed every moment of the past year, searching for signs I had missed. The late nights, the secretive phone calls he'd take in another room, the way he'd started guarding his phone like it held state secrets. The clues were all there, a trail of breadcrumbs leading to a truth I had been too blind, or too afraid, to see. The betrayal wasn't just the affair, it was the deception. It was the thousands of tiny lies he had told every single day while looking me in the eye. Jake was a wreck. He begged. He pleaded. He promised it was a mistake and that he'd do anything to fix it. He'd cut off all contact with her, go to counseling, quit his job if he had to. But his words were just noise. How could I ever trust him again? Trust is like a mirror. Once it's broken, you can piece it back together, but you'll always see the cracks. He had not only broken my heart, but he had also broken our family. The hardest part was telling the kids. We sat them down trying to explain the unexplainable in gentle, age-appropriate terms. Seeing the confusion and hurt in their eyes was a new kind of agony. It was a pain that dwarfed my own. This wasn't just our tragedy anymore, it was theirs too. His selfishness had left a scar on their innocent lives. I knew I had a choice. I could let this destroy me, let bitterness consume me, and remain a victim of his betrayal. Or, I could find a way to stand up, brush the dust off my shattered life and rebuild. For myself and for my children. I chose to rebuild. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. The legal proceedings were cold and clinical, reducing our 15-year love story to assets and custody schedules. There were days I could barely get out of bed, overwhelmed by grief and anger. But then I would look at my kids' faces, and I'd find a strength I never knew I possessed. They were my reason, they were my why. Slowly, painstakingly, I started to put the pieces of my life back together. Not the old life, because that was gone forever. I was building something new. I went back to school to finish the degree I'd put on hold to raise our family. I reconnected with old friends who rallied around me with unwavering support. I discovered new hobbies, things that were just for me, things that made me feel alive again. I learned to enjoy my own company, to find joy in the quiet moments after the kids were in bed. I started to see Stella again, not just as Jake's wife or a mother, but as a person. A strong, resilient woman who had weathered the worst storm of her life and was still standing. The journey was long and filled with setbacks. There were lonely nights and moments of crippling doubt. Forgiveness is a complex, messy process. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive Jake for the depth of his betrayal. But I have learned to forgive myself for not seeing it sooner. I've learned to let go of the anger, not for his sake, but for mine. Holding on to that poison was only hurting me. It's been a few years now. I have a new career, a new sense of purpose, and a new understanding of my own strength. The kids are thriving, and we found our new normal, a rhythm to our life as a family of 3. Sometimes I see Jake when he picks them up. He looks older, sadder. The charm is gone, replaced by a permanent shadow of regret. He lost everything that truly mattered, all for a fleeting secret. My story is one of betrayal, yes. But it's also a story of survival, resilience, and rebirth. It is about finding out that the end of one chapter is not the end of the book. It's about realizing that sometimes your world has to collapse for you to build a new one, stronger and more beautiful than before. If you're going through something similar, know this: you are not alone and you are stronger than you think. The pain feels all-consuming now, but it will not last forever. You will get through this, and you will come out on the other side. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please consider subscribing for more stories of life, loss, and the strength we find within.